Hey guys, welcome to Cape Cowl Cafe. I'm Nemo, and today we're going to be going over your guys' hot takes. If you guys enjoyed the video at any point today, I'd really appreciate it if you hit that like and subscribe button, but let's hop right in. Now, before we jump in, I just want to mention that this video will be split into two sections. The first section will be all about the show, so if you don't want to be spoiled on anything in the comics, you're totally fine to watch the first section of this video. The next section will be all about the comic books, so there will be spoilers, so be warned. Alright, first take of the day. Comic Book Nerd 9093 says, Lee Pace voicing Thragg was a good choice. Brings a calm and quiet intensity to the character, making it feel like Thragg doesn't need to scare his enemies as he lets his power do the talking. Yeah, honestly, I don't really get the hate for Lee Pace as Thragg. I don't think there's anything wrong with his voice, and he sounds perfectly fine, okay? Like, you guys are expecting him to sound like Christopher Judge as Kratos or something. It's kind of ridiculous, okay? He sounds fine. He sounds regal enough to be the king of Viltrum, and like, he doesn't need to have like the super deep, low, intimidating voice. Like, he's not Batman, all right? You guys need to chill out. And honestly, the only reason why I think people are upset about the voice is because they just expected Thragg to be some kind of 24/7 aura farmer, and they wanted him to have the voice to match that energy, when that's not what he is, okay? He's a character, he's not just a TikTok edit, all right? So there's nothing wrong with Lee Pace's Thragg. He's doing a fine job. All right, next up, Dr. Dylan says, hot take, the animation of Invincible is good, but the shading/lighting could be improved by a lot. Yes, it could. And I mean, yeah, there's the PNG scenes, and those kind of piss me off, but like, when the animation is good, it's good animation, okay? I feel like this show has the same problem as Spider-Man 2017, where the animation can be fluid and smooth and there's a lot of cool stuff happening, but the visuals just suck, okay? Like, there's no lighting, there's no shadows, the images just feel really flat, and there's actually fan edits out there of, people recompositing the show to have better lighting and shading, and it looks amazing. So half the time, I don't even think the show's problem is the animation itself. Like, sure, they cut corners in some of the slower scenes and filler episodes, like whatever, all shows do that. I just feel like if they had better shading and lighting, people wouldn't really be complaining that much. I mean, just look at this. And the other thing is, like, a lot of people complain that the animation sucks because they put all the budget into the celebrity voice actors, but I don't really think that's how it works, because Amazon has all the money in the world, to throw money at the celebrity actors and have good animation. They have the money, but what they don't have is the time, and they're not giving themselves the time to create good products, and they're overworking their understaffed team. Like, they have, it was like 4 compositors, that's it. So money is not the problem, okay? They need to hire more animators and compositors, just have more people on their team, and like, yeah, we need to wait a little bit more time between seasons. Like, there shouldn't be as big of a gap as, say, like Stranger Things, but this show still needs a little more time in the oven. Okay, a lot of these hot takes are about the animation. Next up, the Master 22 Dude 39 says, I don't mind the animation being not up to par as long as they lock in for the fight scenes and the performance and writing is great. Now, I understand where you're coming from, because yeah, every show will cut corners in certain areas and kind of spread out their resources to kind of manage it in the best way, but like, we still shouldn't settle for mediocre content just because it has one good fight scene at the end of the season. They should have quality content spread throughout the season and not just have still PNGs for 7 episodes and then, oh wow, look at Mark's hair and it's flowing in this last episode, the animation's so peak. No, like, it should be similar to that throughout the season. They just need to manage their resources better, not save everything for the end. That's bad. All right, next up, Izzy Abed says, Mark's initial choice to stay with Eve when she was hurt by the Mark variants in season 3 is what makes him such a good hero. Invincible isn't a hero who always makes the best or right decisions overall, and showing he's still emotion-driven and learning. He's new to being a hero, and after going through so much in his life, and seeing him ready to give it up is very realistic. Yeah, I think it's very realistic for somebody to want to stay with their loved ones during such a traumatic event, and he's just a kid, okay? And I feel like a lot of people are mad when characters make decisions like this, because a lot of people just want their superheroes and their characters to be perfect self-inserts where they can see themselves making all the right choices and doing everything right. And we forget that characters are supposed to be human like us, and they make mistakes and they don't always do the right thing. And so even though I don't agree with Mark, choosing to stay behind and let everyone else deal with the Mark variants, he's being a realistic human being. That's what some people would do. All right, next up, Mark's blue suit is his best suit. I'm gonna have to disagree. I used to like the blue suit a lot, lot, but the yellow is just way better. Like, it's so classic looking, the color balancing is insane, and my problem with the black and blue suit is that there's too much blue. Like, when you have a suit that has black as one of the primary colors, it needs to have more black than the other color to feel balanced. You know, like, look at Miles Morales. If his suit had more red than black, it would look pretty weird, wouldn't it? And the pants on the blue Invincible suit are blue. I feel like they should have been black and that would have fixed the issue, but it just looks off to me, and the more I look at it, the more I don't like it. So no, the yellow suit clears by a mile. All right, next up, Carbonite says, Conquest is the most fun and terrifying villain in the story. I love Conquest. He's just such a fun villain, and he's so evil for no reason, but my wife hates him because she thinks he's disgusting. And yeah, that's true, because he's just always doing the grossest things, and he's a gross, fun villain, you know? Like, I love him. All right, next up, Gerstein says, the Immortal hate is kind of dumb. He is stronger than people give him credit for. He went toe-to-toe with Nolan and did a decent amount of damage. And people forget that when he came back to life the first time, he immediately went to fight Nolan despite knowing Nolan had already killed him once. No, okay, the Immortal sucks. He's a fraud. Anyone who hates him is completely justified in doing so, and he's so condescending and hypocritical. In the beginning of the show, he comes down to Mark and he's like, I'm watching you. I don't trust you. And then when the situation gets real and Earth is being invaded for like the 20th time, he's like, actually, I've done enough for the Earth. I quit. I'm done. What a loser, you know? No. All right, next up, Lucas and Earl says, I don't mind the gender swaps in the show, and I think they are a good choice. Yeah, I think most of them are good, and I don't really think anybody is mad about Shrinking Ray being swapped. Like, they made the right choices with most of the characters. I understand people who are upset about Tech Jacket. I personally don't mind as much. I think I did at first a little bit, but I understand the reasoning, just because Tech Jacket in the comics is like a clone of Mark, essentially. But what I don't like are people who just immediately write off people who are fans of Tech Jacket. They're like, oh, you shouldn't care about the swap because nobody's a fan of Tech Jacket. You don't like Tech Jacket. Of course there's people who like Tech Jacket. You know, there may not be many of them, but they exist, and Tech Jacket is a character who has a solo run in the book. So I can understand people who are frustrated because a character they really like is being adapted and it's just completely different. And then people who, you know, like the show and want to get more into the character, they go to the comics to learn more, and just completely different from what they saw in the show. I think it's completely and utterly disingenuous to just write off any criticism because, oh, you're not a fan of Tech Jacket. There's no Tech Jacket fans. Yes, there are. Okay, just shut up. All right, next up, Stealth Cycle says, Mark Grayson isn't just relatable. He's often frustratingly passive, and major events happen to him more than because of him. Wrestling with moral dilemmas too often paralyzes him, and he is far too slow to adapt/evolve. Yeah, it can be really frustrating when we keep getting the same scene of Mark crying to Eve, and he's like, oh, I'm so sad, and I don't want to kill anybody, but I actually killed these people, and I keep killing, and I just can't stop it. Like, dude, just grow up, just make a decision, okay? Kill people or don't kill people. And I was a little frustrated with the finale just because a lot of the runtime was dedicated to Mark having panic attacks in front of other characters. Like, that was half of the episode. I feel like they could have used that time in a much better way. All right, next up, Silver Hums Edit says, people fetishizing Anissa and Mark are weird. Yeah, you guys are freaks, okay? The men doing it are just complete weirdos, and you're the problem. And the women doing it are grifters, and they just want your money, and they just want to get views. That's it, okay? Moving on. All right, next up, Benjamin is Batman says, I think Alex Lee is a better fit for Mark's voice. I know he's trying to impersonate Stephen Young, but I still think his voice is filled with so much more emotion and depth and passion for the character. No hate to Stephen, both are awesome, but Alex Lee is definitely better in my opinion. Yeah, I can kind of see where you're coming from with this. Now, for those of you who don't know, Alex Lee, who also voices Daredevil in Marvel Rivals, voices Invincible in the new video game. And he sounds exactly like Stephen. Like, it's crazy. He also looks like Invincible too. But anyway, he is younger, so, you know, his voice does have more of a youthful energy to it. Stephen's 42, he's getting up there. But also, it helps that Alex is a trained voice actor. Like, that's his job. So, of course, he's probably gonna, you know, be able to give off a better performance than Stephen. Now, I like Stephen Young. He's good. He's a good voice actor. He fits Mark, but I feel like if they ever needed to replace him, or, you know, if they wanted a slight upgrade, Alex Lee is the way to go, okay? He is one of the best voice actors of the modern age. All right, next up, up, I think Robert Kirkman uses the excuse of power scaling is stupid to get away with lackluster plot convenience filled writing. The adrenaline theory was like our shred of hope to make sense of some of his scaling, and then he goes out of his way to say it's untrue and stupid. I understand Viltrumite DNA is very strong or whatever and takes over, so Mark is mostly Viltrumite, but even still, he could have just said that Mark gets the best of both worlds. Dragon Ball does this concept well. He has such terrible scaling within his own universe that fans' ideas genuinely make so much more sense. Now, I also think power scaling is stupid, and I can kind of understand what Kirkman was going for with this story. He's trying to convey that Invincible's willpower and humanity is what makes him invincible, not just his powers or his Viltrumite DNA. But also, like, on the other hand, I think Robert Kirkman is just upset that he didn't think of it first. Because I think the adrenaline theory is so good, it makes so much sense, and it's really cool to think that humans have this one tiny little advantage over Viltrumites. Like, that's just such a cool detail, and I would not mind if this was canon. So I think Robert Kirkman is just upset that he didn't think of it first. All right, next up, Sean CTV says, Oliver is an idiot, not a hot take, just had to get it off my chest. My guy, he's a child, okay? Children are idiots. They're gonna do dumb things, all right? They're impulsive, they're stupid. So if anything, he's a very well-written child. All right, from this point on, we will be talking about the comics and there will be spoilers. So if you do not want to be spoiled, move on. All right, next up, Kensten says, I think the reboot arc was one of the most interesting and clever storylines in the series. It was a great critique of comic book reboots and repetitive storytelling, but also a testament to Mark's growth and the development of the series. Yeah, I agree. Okay, the reboot arc was so good and it was such a breath of fresh air and a nice break from everything else going on at the time. Like, a lot of people missed the classic superhero status quo that we had in the earlier Invincible stories, because at this point in the timeline, everything going on was just like space politics, and Mark wasn't even wearing his costume and he was wearing like the Coalition of Planets fit, and I don't know, it was just a nice break. But anyway, the reboot arc was essentially like a 3-issue miniseries where Mark got to go back in time to his 17-year-old self and redo the events of the first season. So he got to react to all of these events and situations in new ways and make new decisions with future knowledge. And eventually, he's able to convince his dad to not take over the planet, and he starts his redemption arc way earlier. It's really cool. But at the end of the reboot arc, Mark is approached by a mysterious being and given a choice to either stay in this new timeline where everything's going good and everything's bright and happy, or to go back to his regular timeline with his wife and kid where the future is uncertain. And he decides that his current life with Eve and Tara is more valuable than, rewriting history. And it's a really cool moment that shows how much Mark has grown as a character. All right, next up, Supdog says, Cory Walker's recent art style genuinely clears Ryan Ottley's. I have to agree. Okay, like, Ryan Ottley's art is amazing and it's really good for that dynamic action, but Cory Walker, his character designs and his environments, they're just so damn beautiful. Like, I am so glad that he was able to evolve his style to go beyond what it was before, because like come on, his art is just so nice to look at, okay? And I also think that the simplified character designs was a good choice to go with for the show. All right, next up, Akeem says, in terms of the Anissa essay scene, I believe they should show it to make people feel uncomfortable. And then I don't know how YouTube is gonna feel about this take, so I'm just gonna skip on to the next one. The essay jokes around Anissa, while messed up, are still funny in my opinion. Would I laugh if it was the other way around? Probably not. It's just double standards. I will laugh when it's the community just messing around, but when the scene actually happens in the show, it's time to get serious. Now, no offense, but you were onto something at first, and then you just completely lost it at the end. Yes, they should include this part of the comic in the show because it's a serious topic that needs to be covered and it's important to the plot. And it should make people uncomfortable, okay? That is the point. But honestly, with the way Invincible fans are interacting with this character and with this scene, I'm not even sure that they should include it anymore, because there's no way in hell that it's gonna be taken seriously. And like, this is just disgusting. Really? The jokes are funny until the scene happens and then it's time to get serious? No, it's never funny, and people who glorify this kind of thing are just weird. Like, I have seen so many Anissa cosplayers on social media pretending to essay their friends dressed as Invincible at cons, and in the comments they're like, oh, everyone consented to this, but like, they're still glorifying a horrific act and making jokes about it, and I think this is kind of messed up. But yeah, I feel like they should include it and make people uncomfortable with it, because people need to learn that it's a serious topic. Some of you guys are freaks, honestly. All right, next up, Red Dread 28 says, I think the live-action Invincible movie could would work if it's an original story and not a retelling. We got comics, animation, and video games. Why not make Invincible the avatar of indie heroes? Honestly, I feel like the Invincible movie that's being made or whatever could take a lot of notes from the Invincible Versus game, because they're doing something different from the main story of the show and the comics. And I feel like you kind of have to do that for a movie, because Invincible is one cohesive story with a beginning and an end. And obviously, you're not going to be able to fit the whole story in one movie. I don't even think they could fit the first season in one movie. So if they were to make a movie, I would like them to have it take place after the comics, after the show, whenever that's all done. So you could, make a movie about Invincible's son, Marky, or just tell a story about Emperor Mark and the new Viltrum Empire. And I don't know. I feel like that's the best way to go about it. All right, next up, Greg says, Thragg hands down would beat Superman and it wouldn't even be close. You really thought that I was gonna fall for this rage bait? No, Thragg would not beat Superman. And I'm placing this hot take in the spoiler section of the video because I want to tell you exactly how Superman is beating Thragg. All he has to do is fly him into the sun. Okay, if you've read the Invincible comics, which I'm assuming you haven't, you would know that Thragg dies because he burns up in the sun. What is the source of Superman's power? Anyway, nice try. Moving on. All right, next up, Dinosaurus sucks. The series was at its worst when the story was about him, Las Vegas, Oliver betraying Mark, etc., and the series instantly got better when his story was done. Yeah, Dinosaurus sucks. Okay, that whole arc in the book was so boring, and he was such an unconvincing villain. I did not care about him at all, and it made no sense as to why he was so strong. It was just stupid. Maybe you guys are right about Robert Kirkman and power scaling. This is kind of dumb. All right, guys, that's gonna be it for today's video. If you guys enjoyed it all, I'd really appreciate it if you hit that like and subscribe button, and drop in the comments down below your Invincible hot takes. There might be a part 2, but yeah. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.